Today we are exploring a website called Constitute, the world's constitutions to read, search, and compare. So um, I was surprised when I came to this because I thought, cool, there's going to be a lot of constitutions that we can look at. And I didn't realize that there was a website that you could come to and look at the world's constitution. So I was pretty excited about that. I think that was the first thing that was surprising to me. I wish I would have known about this sooner because I would have used it in my classroom. When exploring a website, especially one that I want students to use for research or one that I'm going to use for research, I always want to look and see who created the website, where did the information come from. I want to evaluate to make sure that it's a good source. So the first thing I notice is that it says .org up here. That's a good clue for me that it's a good source because that means it is government funded. If it said .edu, that would also be a good way for me to see that it's probably going to be a pretty legit website. But more than that, I want to keep checking. So I always look on the front page because there's usually something on the page that says you can learn about who the author is or the people behind it. Here it says, learn more about the project and the people behind it. So I want to know about this project. I want to know who created this information. Are they experts? Why was it created? How did they get all these constitutions? Where did they come from? Making sure that the source is legit. So I like how this page is broken up because there's all these subtitles. It says about, and it's going to help me to kind of quickly scan and try to find the information that I'm looking for. So the first thing I notice is it says why Constitute. So this is going to tell me why the website was created. New constitutions are written every year. The people who write these important documents need to read and analyze text from other places. Constitute offers access to the world's constitution so that users can systematically compare them across the broad set of topics using an inviting, clean interface. So this was really cool and surprising to me because I'd never thought about how people are writing constitutions still. And I didn't really think about it until I started exploring the website and I noticed, I think, Thailand, I think, is the newest constitution, was written in 2017. We'll look at that in a second. But I just hadn't thought, I guess I just kind of take for granted how old our country is and how we've had a constitution in place for so long. But it's neat for me to think about how people created this website. So experts that are trying to write a constitution to guide their government can compare different countries' constitutions and say, hey, I like what this country did, so let's take that and put that in our constitution. And I think about, it makes me wonder what our founding fathers would think about something like this. I mean, how cool would that be if they had access to something like this? So first I know why they created it. But then I'm also thinking, it's a really cool source for these experts, but what a cool source for people who are studying law and government, and for students who want to learn about different countries and how our countries compare to other countries, especially when it comes to civil rights, how governments work. I just think it's what a cool resource. Then it says how to use Constitute. Okay, so I'm looking for information to evaluate if this is a good source. It's good for me to know that this is here, and I would point this out to my students. I would always, whenever I'm going over how to do research with students or how to use a website, I usually kind of show how to navigate a website. But this is nice if they need to know how to search or how to filter a topic. I would point out that there's videos here that they could watch, and I actually watched some of them just because I was curious. They're super short and very helpful. See something that looks wrong. Let us know if you find problems with the Constitution or one of its excerpts. Each passage has an error icon, which you can click to tell us when it is miscategorized or displayed incorrectly. So that's pretty cool. We are obsessed with the beautiful and reliable Constitution data and welcome your feedback. So you probably get a lot of experts looking at this site, and I think it's nice to know that they want to make sure that everything on here is reliable. Here it tells you what constitutions are presented. Constitute includes the currently in force constitution for nearly every independent state in the world, as well as some draft and historical text. And we'll look at that in a minute when we're looking at filters. But that tells me that it shows all the constitutions that are in place, that are current, and it shows some that haven't yet been put in place, but the drafts of them, which is pretty neat to see a constitution that is being worked on, and historical texts that used to be in place that are no longer in place. Okay, this is what I'm looking for here. It says, I want to know who created the information. Who is behind Constitute? Constitute was developed by the authors of the Comparative Constitutions Project at the University of Texas at Austin. Okay, so this tells me one thing, that it's somebody from a university, and that's making me feel pretty good because that usually means it's someone that's an expert in a field. We'll click on this in just a minute. It was seeded with a grant from Google Ideas, now Jigsaw. Okay, so they got a grant. I know Google Ideas is a pretty legit, and Jigsaw, they do things to help better the world. I know that. With additional financial support from the Indigo Trust and IC2. Arabic Constitute was developed in partnership with International IDEA, which provided significant intellectual and material support. Semantic data structures were created by the Moranker Lab at the University of Texas. Okay, so this is telling me here that there was structure behind how they did this. They didn't just put stuff together. They actually did some research to make sure that this was going to be a good source. And then here it's talking about who put money into the project. The National Science Foundation, the Klein Center for Advanced Social Research, the United States Institute of Peace, the University of Texas, University of Chicago, and the Constitution Unit at University College of London. Okay, so those things right there, like these established places, let me know if they're going to put money into this website, then I would say that this website's reliable. But I just want to go a little bit further, just because I like my students to really kind of know who is behind the project. So I want to click on this and just see who are the authors, who are the people that started this project. Okay, I'm going to click on About. Okay, the Comparative Constitution Project, directed by Zachary Elkins, University of Texas Department of Government, and Tom Ginsberg, University of Chicago Law School, and James Melton, produces comprehensive data about the world's constitutions. Okay, so this here, he works at the University of Texas in the Department of Government, University of Chicago Law School. That right there is telling me that they are pretty reliable authors. They talked about how they launched the project to answer a set of research questions about the origins and consequences of constitutional choices. It aims to fill this informational gap by providing systematic data to comparative legal scholars for analysis, long before they provide advice to Constitution drafters. It is our hope that the analysis of and insights from this data will promote peace, justice, and human development through the Constitution-making process. So this tells me, all of these things tell me that it's a legit site, and it's a cool site because they did this because they wanted to help make the world a better place through writing constitutions that promote peace, justice, and human development. How cool is that? Okay, so I'm going to say that yes, this is a reliable site to use for some research. Okay, now I'm going to go back to our site. Let's look at this screen and see what kind of features we have. This is pretty cool up here. You can go from English to Arabic, which I thought was really neat. I also noticed that here, like where it says Bolivians protest for a new constitution, constitutional referendum. These are all the captions for the photos that are here. Election officials check voter polls for Kenya's, well, I can't read it fast enough. Brazilians protest for a constitutional amendment. So the captions here are telling you what these photos are of. And then down here, it gives you some ideas that you might want to look at when you're exploring constitutions. So here it talks about drafting with Google Docs, and I actually watched this video. We're not going to watch it today, but kind of going back to what I was saying earlier, one of the reasons they created this website is so people who are trying to write constitutions can look and compare different constitutions. Here it shows you how people are actually using Google Docs and this website to draft new constitutions and how they can work together as a group to decide what's going to go in a constitution. So cool. That really surprised me. I just thought that was so neat. And I hadn't thought about that before. So it kind of just showed me something new that I didn't know, and kind of made me think about how different writing a constitution today would be than writing a constitution back when our founding fathers had to write the Constitution. Okay, so let's go in and explore some constitutions. So when you get to this page, right now we're in list view. So it's listing all of the constitutions that are in force. So this is a filter that's going on right now. So that means all the constitutions that are currently active. And it says there's 193 constitutions found. They're in alphabetical order, so from A to Z. You can also sort them from year adopted, so from the oldest constitution to the newest. So the United Kingdom is the oldest constitution, with the United States coming in second in place. And then you can go to the newest constitution if you wanted to, which is Thailand. Yeah, I had it right earlier. So in 2017, Thailand put their constitution in place. So that's one way that you could search, and you could search by year. I'm just going to go back to alphabetical order because I just like it that way. And then there's these two features over here where you can compare two constitutions if you want to, or you can pin information that you find out about constitutions, and we're going to use those features in just a minute. There's filters that you can use. So say I want to look at two different constitutions. So today I'm going to look at Iraq and the U.S. So I'm going to go down here and I'm going to filter by country. I'm going to go to the Americas, United States of America, and then I'm going to go to Asia. I'm going to find Iraq. And say there's just some questions that I have that I want to answer about these two constitutions. So let's go to topics. And this is one feature I love. It gives you all these topics, so you don't have to come up with something right off the top of your head if you don't want to. Or maybe you had questions. So maybe you filled out a KWL chart about Iraq and US, and you have questions about like what you want to know about the two countries. So say I want to know about freedom of religion. I know through prior knowledge that in the US we have freedom of religion. I don't really know what Iraq's constitution says about religion. So I'm going to go to culture and identity and click on religion. And I'm going to say freedom of religion. Let's see if there's a freedom of religion here. And I'm going to expand both of these. Okay, so Section 1, Article 2. First, this is cool to me because it makes me think about how our Constitution is divided up into sections and articles. I'm surprised, and I was kind of surprised when I was looking how similar a lot of these constitutions look and how they're divided. A lot of them have preambles and articles and amendments. And so it was interesting to me of how similar a lot of them were. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. Okay. So this constitution guarantees the Islamic identity of the majority of the Iraqi people and guarantees the full religious rights to freedom of religious belief and practice of all individuals such as Christians, Yazidis, and Mandeans, Sabians. I'm totally butchering how to say this. Okay, so I'm surprised. I did not know that Iraq's constitution guaranteed freedom of religion. And so if I was going to do research like this, I would probably use some kind of graphic organizer to keep track of what I'm doing. So I would probably keep track, I would use something like this. I could use a strategy really, and I could say something I found interesting or surprising. Iraq Constitution guarantees freedom of religion. Of course, I misspelled everything. And I'll put we'll say Iraq's, make it. And then here, I kind of put this, if I was going to use this as a website, I'd want my kids to be able to keep track of their search terms, and I'm going to show you an easier way that they can do that too. But here I'm comparing, let's see, I did Iraq, I filtered Iraq and United States, and then I topic freedom of religion. Why does this surprise me? Well, I think about the news. This surprises me because in the news, I always hear about how there's different religious groups. For instance, I know ISIS exists in Iraq, and many religious groups have been persecuted. Can't spell persecuted. This is why I love, I'm not a good speller, why I love using Google Docs. By terrorists. This suggests to me, just knowing this information, that maybe the Constitution is in place, but it's not really protecting. So the Constitution is in place, but is it really doing its job? Or doing a good job? This would be a great thing to research. Research further. So that's just one example of how I could use this to answer a question that I might have. So if I'm comparing these two constitutions and I want to look, so like I said, first was freedom of religion. It's just a cool way to compare it. And I want to show you just two more features that could help when you're doing some research like this. So once I find something like this, you can pin it. So say I liked this search. So the search I did was freedom of religion, and I'm looking at Iraq and United States. So I'm going to hit this little pin, and see how it says pinned here, 1. So I've pinned my search. And then I'm going to pin the information that I found. What does it say? And I'm going to pin what I know about the U.S. And here it just shows that Congress shall make no laws respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging this freedom of speech or of the press or the right of the people to peaceably assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. So I'm going to pin that as well. And so then I can go to this thing that says pinned, and I can name my collection. So maybe I want to just name it Iraq and U.S. freedom of religion. Or if I wanted to make it, like maybe I'm going to look at some more civil rights. So I might say just civil rights, civil and political rights. If I was going to do some more research to pin. Here it shows the articles that I've pulled. So I've got comparisons, if I had any comparisons on here. And then searches. And then I can export this to Google Docs. So then I can go back and look at, so I would choose my school account, and I could go back and reference the information that I've pulled off of this website. And I also have the search terms that I've used, which is important if you want to go back and think about, how did I get this? How did I get this search term? So if I want to view it, there I have it. It's in my Google Drive now, and I can go back and use this information if I was going to write a research paper, or if I was going to create some kind of presentation for class, or maybe we're having a class discussion and I'm supposed to bring some information to the class discussion for a group that I'm working with. And then the last thing that I want to show you today is you can also compare these two. So if I wanted to compare Iraq and I wanted to compare United States, you would be able to pull, here we go. You can compare the whole Constitution together to see how they look. It does them side by side. And right here, they've highlighted, because we were looking at freedom of religion, they've highlighted what we were looking at earlier. And so you could do it this way. But that way, if you wanted to read and compare the whole, maybe I'm going to go through and look at all the different rights that citizens in Iraq have and citizens in the United States have. So if I want to look at civil and political rights, I've already looked at freedom of religion. Maybe I want to look at freedom of press. It kind of does the same thing that we did earlier. It'll go to the area in the Constitution where it talks about freedom of press, and it'll highlight it for you. So then you just scroll down and you find where it says in either one. Where is it at? Oh, here we go. The state shall guarantee in a way that does not violate public order or morality. Okay, so right here, that would be surprising to me. And I would probably go to my chart and say, what does public order and morality mean? I'm not sure. How does that make it, it says that you can get freedom of expression using all means, freedom of press, printing, advertisement, media, and publication. That surprises me. I didn't know that they had that, but I also want to know, what does that mean where they say public order and morality. I would have a further question. I would have a question about that. I think the author thinks I know what that means, and I don't. I don't know what that means. It kind of leaves it wide open, and I'd want to do some more research to see what does that mean. Are there cases where freedom of press was not allowed in Iraq because they said it wasn't moral? I know that Islam is the established religion, and I know that laws in Iraq cannot violate Islam. So I'm kind of assuming that if I had to predict, that the morality piece has to do with Islam. If it's something that's going to violate Islamic morals, then it would not be allowed. But that's just a prediction I'm making. So that is my video of the Constitute project. And like I said, I think it's a really cool website. I'm pretty excited about it, and hope to use it in my classroom.